Shop smart, shop S-smart.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of New Book Hooters.
I am, of course, your host, DeathMetalHero, and with me is my good friend, the one, the only, Pete Simeti. How's it going, good sir?
It's going great. Thank you very much for having me on tonight.
Oh, absolutely, man. I can't believe it's taken this long for me to get you to come on the show. But, you know, here we are. We had a fantastic time on your show the other day.
Mea culpa. My fault.
Yeah.
My fault.
No, not at all, man. I should have had you come. I should have had you come hang out for King Cryptid a long time ago. I can't believe that I missed out on King Cryptid for as long as I did.
Okay,
And,
your fault. That's okay.
Yeah, totally my fault. I will take full responsibility for that.
I'm here now, though, and that's what matters.
That's right.
So
That's right, man. That's right. And we're going to be talking about all things King Cryptid and everything in between. You know, a couple of nerds just nerding out like we usually do. Yeah, man.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and say hi to the chat. We got Eric the Guapo saying he is here. I wonder if he is still here because that was about an hour ago. We've got Unhinged saying 3. That's usually his thing. And there's my lady Skull flying Feline. Good to see you, beautiful. Enjoyed the movie earlier. And then we've got this guy publishing Pete Simeti in the chat here. Better watch out for that one. Yeah, and we got some person fire. Interesting. So we see this, and then the next one is the actual. StreamYard's you strange sometimes. That's all I got to say. You know, I'm not. Is it a different input? Is it on the phone?
I don't know.
Very strange. There, I metaled it up for you. Thank you. I appreciate that, some person. You know, we gotta rock it. Always metal over here. You know, that's what I do. Killer Kovacs in the chat. Hey, welcome. Good to see you. Let's see. Some person got Creators Outlet. Nerds. Yeah. And you. Wait. We're on my channel. I have something for this. You say nerds. I say.
You knew what this was.
That's right. You knew what this was. Eric the Guapo says, I never left. Well, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And we got a Rick Sailor in the chat. What's up, Rick? Good to see you, man. Almost forgot Death was here. Yes, indeed. The skulls are always with us. You know, we just finished up Spooky. How was your Halloween, Pete?
It was man. I want to say it was fun. It was good. It was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It was another day.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
You know,
Well, this is the problem. We live in an apartment, right?
Right.
And you'd figure that they would have some kind of trick or treat available. There's like 1,000 people around.
Yeah.
No, they don't do trick or treat stuff here.
What?
You know, yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
that I mean, you'd think in an apartment complex they'd have some kind of something for like the kids. I mean, there's got to be families that live in the apartment complex, right?
The best part about Halloween was seeing everybody's pictures with Alternaween stuff and things like that coming in, and
nice.
I could live vicariously through them. But other than that, no big deal on Halloween. We got some pizza and whatnot, and made the best of it.
Yeah.
Put on a horror movie and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, good stuff. But other than that, it was like, yeah. That's how it is.
Yeah,
how was yours?
Understand. I had shows early in the day. Flying Feline and I have the Happy Hour Hangout on her channel, so we did a special Samhain episode. And then I had Topicless at 9:15 on Jason's channel that night. So we didn't get to really go out and do anything. But in the days leading up to Samhain, we actually got to do some fun stuff. We had a bonfire one night, and I actually got to carve a pumpkin for the first time in a while. Made this little GIF for Samhain. So we did a bonfire that night, and I carved a pumpkin while drinking some scotch and a coffee. And then the next night we did s'mores with another bonfire. So we celebrated on the way too, because we knew that we were going to have shows that day.
You ever carve the long Halloween pumpkin? I did that years ago.
No, I haven't.
I had a picture somewhere, but it's lost to time. It came out pretty good.
That's awesome.
I
love carving pumpkins. The first pumpkin that I carved like as an adult was a Venom pumpkin, with the big eyes and had the tongue wrapping around. And then one year I carved Brock Sampson from Venture Brothers, and I actually tweeted it at Patrick Warburton.
Oh,
and
nice.
He thought it was awesome, and he responded. He was like, that's great, man. Happy Halloween, because I had the cigarette, and I had carved it out so it looked like it was lit. And,
you get the mullet going?
Had the mullet going. Have to have the mullet going. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not full Brock Sampson unless it's got the mullet going. Adult Swim, back when they used to make fun cartoons. You remember? Do you remember? Do you remember? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Yeah, the last thing I enjoyed from Adult Swim was Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
Oh yeah. The live action.
It wasn't a cartoon, but live action. And I hated it when the commercials were airing, and then I don't know what happened. I think like season 3, we got the app, the Adult Swim app that sometimes has marathons of the show.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I'm just flipping through and just playing whatever they had, and then we put that on, and we were just laughing our asses off. It was great.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I will never forgive them for canceling Metalocalypse. That was my favorite show on Adult Swim, and they got rid of that show, and it was never the same ever since.
I love that show. I loved Brendan Small's other show, Home Movies. That was great.
Yeah, that was an early one along with C-Lab, wasn't it?
Yeah, around the same time. Yeah. The first season of Home Movies had like that squiggle vision. It was kind of, but like this 2, 3, and 4 were great.
Okay. See, I never actually saw any more than the first season, and the squiggly line thing bothered me. So
yeah, the first season, it's got its moments, but yeah, seasons 2, 3, and 4 were really good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I might actually have to go check them out because I like Brendan Small. He's pretty damn funny. He did all the writing, and I don't know if you ever listened to any of the albums from Metalocalypse, the Death album 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they're solid as far as metal albums go. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. It surprised me.
Talented dude.
He really is. He does YouTube videos of the chords and stuff that he's playing on some of those albums. Like Thunder Horse was one of the first ones that he did the
nice.
Tracking for. Yeah, it's really cool, man. But I love stuff like that surprises me. Like you don't expect the music to be good for this TV show that's about a fictional metal band, but it actually turned out to be pretty decent.
Yeah.
They're on tour right now with Baby Metal, which also surprised me.
Wow.
I don't know if you're familiar with Baby Metal. It's a straight up metal band with these 3 Japanese girls, like a J-pop group out front. So it's a weird mashup, weird fusion of like almost J-pop and metal. Huh. And yeah, it's surprisingly good. I will fully admit it. Like it's catchy. I did not expect that combination to work.
Does
but
it sound like an anime intro or outro?
Heavier.
Yeah.
Some
of them have that kind of vibe.
Yeah. No. The vocals definitely, but the music definitely heavier. But yeah. Let's see. Creators Outlet says, but it wasn't just another day for kids that were blessed to get Alternaween books.
Yeah,
I think that's great, man. Giving comic books out for Halloween is a damn good thing.
Yeah, it was great hearing the feedback from everybody that participated, and bought a bundle, mostly everyone that I heard from said how the people were really enjoying it. Kids loved it. And then they went through the comics a lot faster than they thought they would have. So they got to buy more for next year. So that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You know what that tells me? That tells me that kids still really enjoy comic books.
Oh yeah.
And that they get a kick out of getting comic books, at any time of year. Comics and candy. I mean, that's a killer combination.
I mean, there's two people out there, right? There's the people who read and love comic books, and there's the people who just haven't got their comic yet. That they haven't discovered it yet. They don't know that they love the comics yet. So Alternoween kind of allows that, because a lot of these kids, they don't see comics just out and about wherever they go. And to get something like that on Halloween, I think it's a great day for it. Sit down with some candy, you got a comic, you can look at the pictures, read the story, whatever it may be. And it's a really fun experience. And a lot of these kids, it might be their very first comic book. And that might spark a lifelong interest, love, or a pursuit in making things like that. So it's
absolutely
it's more important, I think, than we realize now more than ever.
I fully agree. I mean, if we don't have a younger generation getting into these comics, it's the hobby will die out. I'm sure the art form will always be around, but like the collecting of, the appreciation of, it'll just kind of fall by the wayside. Or at least it could.
Yeah. Yeah, well, definitely the odds are helped by people being able to get into it when they're younger. I think people kind of come around to a lot of things eventually, depending on what part of life they're at, how old they are, what their experiences are at. People will start discovering certain things. But comics, I find, because it's comics more than anything are strange, right? So music, movies, books, if you say to the average person, especially in America, do you like movies? They'll start talking to you about the kinds of movies they like.
Sure.
Same thing for music, same thing for books. But comics are still predominantly stuck in the superhero genre of Marvel, DC.
Right, because that's what most people think of.
Yeah. And then there's manga, but most people who read manga, if you ask them, do you read comics, but you don't specify manga, will not tell you they read manga. Even though a lot of people within the industry and even some readers out there will insist up and down all day long, manga are comics. Yes and no.
Yeah.
So you really have to be more specific when you're referring to that. So because of that, someone might just hear comic books and think superhero, not just thinking stories, not just thinking the medium, not just thinking that kind of stuff, the way you would for anything else, and might automatically just go, I'm not really into the superhero thing, so I'm not going to seek out comic books, or I'm not really interested in them, or the kinds of stories that could be within them, not understanding that it's a very unbelievably, and has been for a long time, diverse medium.
It really is. You can tell any kind of story with a comic book as long as you understand, the formatting and how to present the story. So it's intriguing and appealing in the comic book format.
It's been for a very long time, very long time. But
Classics
the mindset,
Illustrated, man. Gold Key.
Exactly. I was just going to mention that. And the mindset has been stuck so much in that realm, and then you get the other problem where they're just not really around anymore. You just don't really see them at the grocery store, at a convenience store, at a Dollar Tree, here and there and wherever. And I know a lot of people say, let's get them back to that. But the sad truth about it is the fact that business-wise, it's not practical anymore, nor do those stores want that kind of a thing. So that's why it's so great that in another way, I mean, nature abhors a vacuum, right? So as it drops off in one area, there's still a love and a desire for this stuff, and we're able to now utilize technology to get attention to this stuff that's not necessarily super technology based in terms of how you could enjoy it. Sure, you can read a digital comic, but I mean, even at Alterna, we got them on newsprint, and they're as old school as it's going to get in modern times. So getting out there, I mean, even something like this, getting on the show talking about comics and just being able to tell people to get them directly, having a website, utilizing crowdfunding, whatever it may be. There's so many ways to do this now. So even though they're not in as many places as they used to be, they're still just as prevalent. You just have to be able to get the word out there, and you have to also be willing to kind of search for it. And you want to meet them halfway and look as well. But that's why Alternoween to me is so important, is because there's so many kids out there that if they don't have a parent or an uncle or a cousin or an older sibling or whatever, no one they know reads comics. You know, the likelihood of them actually going to read a comic book is very slim.
Yeah.
You know, so if no one in their friend group, no one they know reads any of that, they're not going to seek it out. They're not going to know about it. And it doesn't mean that they hate it. They just don't know about it. You know, it's like if you've never heard a certain song, if you've never watched a certain movie, how do you know you like it or not?
Yeah, you've never been introduced to it.
Yeah.
You got to have somebody that can introduce you. Absolutely.
So that's why I'm so grateful for the people who do participate in Alternoween and are aware of that it's an important thing. And that whether they're using alternate comics or mixing them in with some of the comics they have, or just doing with their comics that they have on their own, or it could be from Marvel, DC, and like the older stuff, whatever it may be that they want to give out, it's an important thing. I mean, we really need to focus on that kind of thing in a way that makes sense. And I think that's a really fun way that does make sense.
I agree, and it's a perfect way to get it in kids' hands.
Yeah.
What's up, Killer Kovacs? He says Smiling Friends on Adult Swim is good. I will have to check that one out.
I'll have to check that out too.
And Ivan, Gennady Tartakovsky's Primal. I've seen the first season, and that was a lot of fun. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, Pete. It's about a caveman and he befriends a mother T-Rex that loses her young, and they go on a rampage throughout prehistoric land. Yeah. Tartakovsky's great. Feline and I watched Hotel Transylvania 2 earlier in the month in October, and that movie, just the animation, the acting, just it's firing on all cylinders. Like the storytelling in that film is great. You know, some of the visual humors, like the physical gags, the acting of the 3D characters, just I was impressed. I was very impressed.
Yeah, it might sound weird. I like Primal, but I hate it at the same time. And what I mean by that is it's not something I can just have on in the background while I'm working. It requires my attention.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I hate it.
You must stop and pay attention.
I'm like, I don't have time to pay attention. I got work to do.
Yeah. I got comics to make. I got stuff to write. I can't be paying attention to a TV show for a half hour, 45 minutes at a time.
What is this? I got to pay attention.
Mm-hmm. No, I feel you.
But yeah, no, it was really good. I got to revisit that at some point in time.
Yeah, I need to catch up on the seasons. Same dude that created Dexter's Laboratory. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
That's nuts to me, man. And smart humor. Exactly. It was smart humor in Hotel Transylvania.
That's the one with Adam Sandler, right? He is a voice in it.
Yep. He plays Dracula, and he's got a daughter, and then they've got this dude that kind of shows up at their hotel in the first one and falls in love with his daughter. You know, it's like Feline said, it's very smart humor. It's hilarious.
Nice. I'll check that out.
They've got 3 of them out there that have Adam Sandler in it. The 4th one they had to sound alike because he moved on to a different film franchise. But
there's 4 Hotel Transylvanias.
There are 4 of them. Yes, I did not. I didn't realize it myself until a while back.
When you're saying 2, I'm like, oh, did that just come out?
No, they came out a while ago. Yeah.
Wow.
The first 3 are worth checking out. The 4th one I can take or leave, but the first 3 were good.
They should do a spoof song, Hotel Transylvania, of the Eagles song.
I'm honestly surprised Adam Sandler did not do that for one of the films.
Yeah.
Like that, I didn't even think about that until you just said it, but damn. That honestly surprises me that he did not do that.
Especially where Hotel California already kind of has a horror vibe to it.
Oh,
as
totally,
it's like escalating and it's just creepy, you know, with the atmosphere that's building up. And
you can check out any time you like, but you can never leave.
Yeah, totally. It totally has a creepy horror vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna have. I'm never gonna think about that song the same way again. Because now I'm gonna be picturing Drac and Frankenstein at Hotel Transylvania. Hey, what's up, Brian? Good to see you, man. He says, "What up, Luke? What up, Pete? What up, people? Good to see you, man."
Hey.
And yeah, the first two are the best, indeed. So what got you into comics, man? Like as a lifelong comic fan, what started you down this journey of loving comics? Was it a dad? Was it an uncle? Was it an older brother? Was it just an older friend that introduced you to comics?
I can't remember a time in my life where comics weren't around in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest. As far as my first comics go, my mom worked near a convenience store, and sometimes she would go there after work and then pick up a comic. But I think she picked them up because I enjoyed the cartoons on TV when I was a kid, like 3 or 4 years old or whatever. And then I got a lot of hand-me-down action figures from my cousins who were like 5 to 7 years older. So I was like, I was born in '84, but I had all the tastes of a kid who was like fully growing up in the early to mid '80s, as opposed to I'm like 5 or 6,
right,
playing with stuff that was popular when I was born.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of shaped my whole life, and I'm out of time. I'm a man out of time, right?
I get it, man. I had older cousins as well, so
yeah. Yeah, I got all the Thundercat stuff, the He-Man, whatever it is that they had, some G.I. Joes, things like that. Even one of the 4 out of the 5 Voltron lines.
Oh, nice.
Mine didn't have like a right arm or something.
Oh, no.
But like, I thought they were the coolest things because, I mean, they were. But
Thundercats to this day is still one of my favorite IPs. I've got a full-size Sword of Omens replica.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And, dude, the handle unscrews and you can put batteries in it, and the Thundercats logo lights up. I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I got it at MegaCon one year.
One of my go-tos every single year. Required watching.
That intro is still one of the most, beautifully animated intros I've seen in a cartoon.
It's incredible.
That whole, it's amazing. I still have my Thundercat tank, like my Thunder tank, and my Cat Slayer as well, along with all of my figures. Yeah. Yeah. I do, man. I love it. It was one of my favorite playsets. You ever notice how
Thundercats is like Ancient Aliens, the cartoon?
It really is, man. Like, it really is. They dealt with all kinds of different cryptids and stuff like that. All kinds of beastmen.
Right, and it's talking about like a time before. Like, the Thundercats are like the ancient astronauts, but they're like the second wave because there's already things when they go to Third Earth. And then there's New Thundera, and there's all kinds of anyway. So
we might have to do a show specifically about Thundercats at some point, man.
Oh, yeah, and they're dealing with like a dude in a pyramid, and he's harnessing the power of the planet and dark energies that are there, and it's all kinds of like. The more I watch Ancient Aliens, the more I'm thinking like, oh my lord, that dude was in all that. He must have been into like Chariots of the Gods and everything to be crafting Thundercats the way that he did, because there's so many things that are referenced. But anyway, so I was always around a lot of that kind of stuff, but comics specifically, when my mom brought them home, I couldn't even read at that point. I love the art, and I still have a lot of the old ones. I think they're...
And yes, I do. I do yell ho when I light it up. Ho!
Yeah, I got them right behind me. So this was the first one, and it's seen better days, but see, I colored in like Spidey's eyes, and right, my mom wrote my name on it.
Oh, it's awesome. The tarantula.
I was in a good time period, right? Because these were my first 4 comics, as far as I can remember, that she had picked up. You got McFarlane Hulk.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Right.
That is fantastic.
Silvestri X-Men.
Yes. Claremont and Silvestri, man.
And I love this Superman issue as well.
Oh, nice. Is that Klaus Johnson? Yeah.
Yep.
No, it is? Nice.
Yep. And they're dog-eared. They got holes in them, tears in them, whatever. I don't care. I love them. I'm keeping them forever.
100%, man. Those are your reader copies, man. That's that. Yeah, I get it.
You know, so I was always around that, and you know, when I eventually could read, I would read the stories. But I love the art. I love the way that they looked. I just loved everything about them. I don't know what it was. It's like I was talking about with Alternaween, just seeing them. Like, I already love the characters and everything else that, you know, the toys. It really helped my imagination get fueled into making whatever it was that I wanted to make. And then whatever I couldn't have as a figure from my cousins, because they my parents didn't really have money. So it was a lot of hand-me-downs.
Yeah.
But even when I would get Legos, I'd craft them into figures or whatever when I was a kid, to make up for the ones I maybe didn't have, or I created a brand new character or something. But the comics themselves, I absolutely loved them. And it was really strange, because I was at a time period where I was so fortunate to be around comics all the time, whether it was they were just everywhere in stores, or I had cousins who were into it. I had one cousin who really kept a great collection and took really good care of it. And he's like, okay, you could take one. And I took like a Sleepwalker issue.
Nice. Sleepwalker was a cool looking character back in the day, man.
Right?
You know?
Because I loved horror too. I remember like begging my mom. I was 6 years old. I'm like, Mom, can you tape Nightmare on Elm Street for me? And I'm like begging her. And she did it.
That's
I don't know
awesome.
why. I didn't get nightmares from that stuff, so maybe that's why she was okay with it. I mean, if I got nightmares,
she knew you were going to be all right.
Yeah, she would have been weird, I guess. But, you know, I had a Fright Night comic when I was a kid. I don't know where that is now. That's the only one I had as a kid that I can remember that I don't have. It was like there was a bunch of vampires, and like I think it was like alien vampires or something in the issue. It was like issue 9 or something like that. But, yeah, they were just always around. And getting into comics, I can't tell anymore what happened first. I really think I got into comics for the visual. But then the stories, I think I eventually came back to when I could read, because I was into just everything strange and unusual. I was into all the paranormal stuff. I loved the Time Life books and things like that. I loved anything about aliens and UFOs and Bermuda Triangle and pyramids and Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot. Like every single thing.
Good old Nessie.
Yeah, I was into all that stuff as a kid. And even a lot of the children's books would have featured things like that too, like anything that was unusual or a creature or a monster in it. I loved all that stuff. And so by the time I could actually get to read a lot of these comics, I think it kind of primed me for the world of a lot of these characters, because it went hand in hand with a lot of these things being supernatural, paranormal, things outside the norm, a lot of sci-fi within them.
Absolutely.
Like it drives me nuts when people are like, "Oh, it's superhero, right? It's just superhero."
Right.
You can't just have superhero. You know, it's got to be superhero with something else. So sci-fi, detective,
you gotta jazz
action, adventure. You know, there's all kinds of elements to it. So it's not just superhero. It's not just some superpowered being punching out another superpowered being, and then that's the story. Call it a day. There's always some other kind of subtext to it, some other subgenre. Or superhero maybe could even be considered the subgenre to the greater genre being whatever it is.
Right.
So there's always that kind of thing. But I loved all of that and just always around it. And like I said, I came into it at a really good time. 5 years old, Batman 89 comes out. And, yeah, you know, so.
I remember buying a VHS tape.
Right. With the Batman logo on it. They didn't have to just have, You know,
Dude,
and
that
think
first 10
about
minutes,
that too.
the sound is just forever burned into my brain.
Oh, the theme song, incredible, right?
Yeah.
Great driving music too.
For sure. Danny Elfman, man, doing that score, you know, incredible.
Yeah. You know, so again, I came into it at a really good time. All the people that ended up forming Image, and then trading cards were huge at the time, so I got into the trading cards as well, because again, we didn't have much money. So if I go to the shop with a couple bucks, it was like, you know, get one or two comics that maybe I didn't know much about these characters, or I could get a pack of cards and learn more about the characters, and then make a more informed buying decision. It's very important when
sure.
you're 7 years old. You have to do your research as to what you're buying.
I mean, on the cards, you get the artwork and you get the stats. You get a little backstory on the back about the characters. Yeah, totally, man.
So then you can go in the shop and be an informed customer and know what you're going to go get. It's very serious stuff when you're 7 years old.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what I'm doing. I'm making like these well-researched trips to the comic shop based on the comic cards I'm collecting. Yeah. And then growing my comic collection like that based on the characters I liked. I picked up a bunch of Silver Surfer and Ghost Rider. X-Men was always a favorite. I was a little bit more of a Marvel guy when I was growing up. But I love DC still because something about Jose Luis Garcia Lopez's art just...
Oh, yeah.
And many people are on the same level. It just spoke to me as a kid. I love the Superpowers team cartoon. Yeah. And then everything that looked like that, I just loved it. And even to this day, that's DC to me, is Jose's work. So I loved the look of classic DC like that. It was classic to me anyway. And I sought out a lot of that stuff with DC too. But that's the thing is that I don't know if I grew up in a different time period. Like if I grew up today, I'd probably be way more into the indie stuff going on as opposed to the Marvel DC stuff that's going on. But back then, it was just I couldn't get enough of it. I would trade lunches at school for comics and cards.
Yeah.
I just bring like a candy bar or something, or a granola bar, or like fruit snacks, and then like I would trade, like it was pizza day or something. I really didn't care too much for the school pizza, and I'd trade my pizza away for a comic, that kind of a thing.
Well, I mean, the pizza lasts only so long, but the comic you can read over and over again.
Exactly.
I get it. I used to sneak out of school on my lunch break and walk across the parking lot to the comic shop and buy my comics and hide them in my backpack because I was going to a Christian private school. Then I would I would enjoy reading my comics when I got home, before doing my homework. So yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Used to save up my allowance to go buy buy boxes of cards. After a month or so of saving up the allowance, you go buy a box of cards, and my dad and I would open them up, and we would see if we could get the whole set, along with the chase cards, and then take the extras back to the card shop and trade them in to get the rest of the set. The last few ones. I still have binders full of cards, man. That's why I really enjoy the campaigns that give cards, especially the ones that have the stats and stuff and the little facts about the characters on the back.
That's why we have to do it here. Like we got a bunch of these. Let me poke them out of here. I got a whole bunch at the side. What do I got? So we got like this Behemoth card, which is a bonus on the King Cryptid campaign. And then you got his stats here. You can see his strength, speed, endurance, fighting ability, energy blast, intelligence, and it's got a bio and all that kind of stuff. And King
feels Cryptid like the classic card. Marvel ones, man. I love it.
That's just the stuff I love. I loved it when they had the stats, and it's just you could kind of compare characters and all that kind of good stuff. And then we even have fun with it too, like this Baron Rat card. And then we make it that he puts all of his stats.
Baron Rat is awesome.
His whole bio written by him. And then he's got that little marker there. Yeah. And he's got all his stats right off the edge. Even though they're all kind of ones.
Right. That's just fantastic, man. I love that.
But yeah, it's part of the fun.
Yeah, totally. Part of the fun, like the fun that you had when you were a kid, growing up, like going to get cards, going to get comics, and that's what you're bringing to this thing, man. And that's that. I know I said this backstage, but I absolutely love the first 4 issues of King Cryptid. I think you have found that balance, that magic that the old Marvel books had. When they were doing the episodic, you get in and you really feel for these characters. You're on an adventure, and you get a whole story, but it feels connected to what came before it. And I'm really looking forward to these next few books, man. The campaign that you currently have going on.
Thank you.
Right now.
It's been a blast. I mean, it's strange how that came about because for the first 10 or so years of Alterna, We mostly had, well, the first 2 years we were print on demand, and then we didn't have distribution. We just started small, which I advise for anybody. Just start small. Too many people go in there and they're like, I'm going to put out 20 books in this universe and we're going to go crazy.
Right.
And, you know, not everybody can handle that. And I would say practically nobody. It's justified. Start with one book. One book. Build that universe organically. Even the big guys did it that way.
Yeah.
But you know, and then as it grows and grows, it grows organically, and that's a good way to do it. But so we started small.
Yeah, I was about to say, how did you get started with Alterna? I was curious. You know, what made you decide that you wanted to become a publisher?
Mostly just started as a self-publishing label. I didn't think anything would ever come of it. I thought Alterna was going to be gone in like 3 years, and I would have moved on. It was just a way to have me put it out, and it sounded cooler than saying Simeti Studios or something. You know?
Okay.
I wanted something that was an alternative, and alternative was already taken, and I didn't want to name it alternative anyway because that's just too literal.
A little too on the nose.
Alterna, okay, that sounds kind of cool. Like that's how much thought I gave it. Seriously. That's how much thought. It was like 5 minutes of like, I want it to be an alternative. What would sound Alterna? So that was it.
It sounds like Alterna.
Yeah, it had a nice feel to it, you know. Nice sing-songy. Sounded sort of Italian, like I am, sort of. You know, I'm half Italian. You know, it had a lot of vowels in there.
Yeah. Oh, you know, you can say it with your hands. You know, when I get very impassioned about something, I speak with my hands because I'm Italian as well. You know, Alietta.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel you on that. But yeah, you know, it's one of those things where you say it over and over again, and it makes you chuckle at first, but the more you say it, like it makes sense. It's like, hey, this actually works. You know, it
sounds
fits.
legitimate, right? So so I went with that. And it was just a self-publishing label at first. I knew nothing about making comics, and I just figured, all right, I've always been drawing, always been writing and all that stuff, but making and writing my own comics was a whole other level. I went to school for graphic design, and that was more what I felt comfortable with, but getting into the creation part of a comic, I made 2 issues on my own, and they were horrible. But they were historic.
Hey, gotta start somewhere, man.
Yeah,
you know.
And I was either going to be, and I did work for free for other people too, as I was learning, because I was working for experience, not exposure.
Right.
And the same thing, I was working for free for myself for experience, just to cut my teeth and do something and see if I could do it, if I even wanted to do it, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it, and really reassess everything. And at the time, I was like 21, and so I made these 2 issues, and they sold. I mean, I sold like 200 to 300 copies of each.
Oh,
but,
wow.
I still don't know how I did it. I think I just did it through sheer will.
You had a story to tell, man, and you were going to tell that story. You were going to get it out there. Yeah.
So, you know, I put those comics out, and it was called Spectrum, and it was based on the spectrum of light. Spectrum now means something different, and to all of us. But it was based on the spectrum of light, and this guy had created a suit that could bend light and could create like hard light hologram or invisibility or whatever it is, and he ends up getting bonded to it. You know, as most scientific accidents occur, he becomes bonded with the suit, and he doesn't know how to fully control it. By the time the second issue's done, I figure I don't want to do this anymore. I know what I like about it. I know what I don't like about it. I didn't want to do certain things. And then other things with Alterna were taking off where I couldn't continue to even do the series anymore because at that point I was accepting submissions from people.
Right.
So I figured, okay, I don't really have time to do the series. I don't like it too much anyway. I like writing and I like lettering. The sequential part, not so much. So I'll hire an artist that would rather draw sequentials. And then if I do another book, that's what'll happen. So the next book was The Chair, which was the death row psychological horror thriller that eventually got turned into a film, was Roddy Piper's last feature film before he unfortunately passed. So The Chair was a real heady kind of, I did a lot of research into it. I don't want to even look at serial killer backgrounds anymore and things like. I did too much research. So it's one of those. Some people love,
man.
Yeah, some people love like the true crime stuff and whatever. And I was there at one point in my time too, really fascinated with what made these people tick. And then I was like, I know enough now. I don't need to know anymore.
I hear you. Some of that true crime stuff, you're just like, how but how? Why is this a thing? Why? Just what kind of damage is there to cause these people to act like this? But yeah, that actually leads me into another question. We're gonna get to King Cryptid in just a minute, but this is what I mean by creative powerhouse. You made a movie based on one of your comic books, man. Like The Chair. How did that come about? Like, tell me a little bit about that story.
So in The Chair was first released as print-on-demand books, and it was supposed to be a 6-issue miniseries. I only did the 3 issues because then we got picked up by Diamond. And then I figured, let's just put it out, the rest of it, as a graphic novel, the whole thing. So I never completed 4, 5, and 6 as print-on-demand issues. Everything just went straight to a graphic novel.
Right.
So the graphic novel came out in 2008, and in 2009 I started getting contacted by people in Hollywood wanting to adapt it to film. Brad Pitt's production company, Plan B, Rob Zombie's production company as well.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of people were getting in touch, and they liked it, but they said that it was just too dark. Like Rob Zombie's people were like, we really like it, but it's too dark.
What? Really?
Because it was too grounded. They wanted something more supernatural. They're like, what if the prison was haunted? What if they were ghosts? What if they were monsters? What if they were? And I was like, that's not the story, Right. I was like, it needs to be grounded for it really to work, because it's about the fact that on death row the only monster is man. So it's I don't mind if people think it's haunted. I don't mind if people go into it having their own theories about why certain things in the prison are happening the way they're happening.
Yeah.
But when the truth is revealed in the story, it's not that at all. It's clear as day reality, and it's just through the viewpoint of someone who's been on there for so long. Because there's a thing called death row phenomenon that occurs to people that are on death row for an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Where their reality is the same thing like putting a sane person in an insane asylum. They will go insane. So being put in those conditions, being sometimes tortured, mistreated, and then especially if you're someone who either believes that you're innocent or is actually innocent, it's even worse. So the effect that's occurred for a lot of people, and again, this was a lot of research it was difficult to digest, but I really wanted to do it the right way. I had correctional officers even come up, and they had read the book, and they were like, you did a lot of research on this, didn't you? And I was like, yeah, I did. And they're like, it shows, because there's a lot of stuff in here from inmates I've dealt with where they are absolutely in this state of mind, and they behave in this way, and they're gone. And if they were already kind of gone, they're even more gone.
Right.
So the whole thing is not, the prison system is not about reform. It's about something else. Lord knows what that really is.
Abandon all hope, ye who enter here.
Yeah, and some people, that's the thing. In the book, I touch upon the fact that there's some people where they are, in a way, beyond redemption. And then there's other instances where you can say, well, who's locked in here? Are the prisoners locked in, or are the people who are working there, are they prisoners too? So there's a lot of like psychological themes. There's a lot of themes of abuse. There's a lot of themes of corruption and power and things like that throughout the chair. But at the basis of it, it's about how two people can come from the same place, go down two completely different paths in life, and still end up at the same place. So it's kind of got this almost like, and I hate to say it like this because it makes it sound like I'm being super pretentious and full of my work, but it's, people have said it, so I'll say it too. It's got like a Shakespearean quality to it. Tragedy. Because there's a lot of tragedy. Yeah. And it's kind of a familial thing. If you've read the story, you know what I'm talking about. So it's got that kind of element where it takes it a bit. You could have put this story in any kind of setting. Right. And you would have still had a story that rang true to what's being discussed. So that was a story that I set out. I wanted to do it because I wanted to make something Twilight Zone-y. Right. Right. So I just was cool. Let me make something that's sort of like this. I'm into this kind of stuff, and I'll make this kind of story. King Cryptid, on the other hand, is a story that I didn't want to make. I need to make. I have to make. It's like inside of me, and it's been inside of me. It's a story that I've always wanted to tell a story like this. Right. I didn't know how to do it. I just didn't know how to do it. I didn't even think I should do it. It felt like, what's the point? An ongoing series. I'm an indie guy. We're lucky if we get 2 issues, let alone
that's fair.
More than that. So it was like, whatever. But I always loved, like, King Cryptid's every single thing I love about everything put into one series. And I had to get a lot of experience to feel comfortable enough to even have myself believe that I could do this, let alone tell other people that, yeah, this is going to be something worth your time. Because the money's one thing, but the time is something else. You can't get time back. So
yes.
I wanted to make sure that if people are going to stick with an ongoing series, it's going to be worth it. You know, there's going to be a lot of great characters. We're going to have a lot of great stories. And, you know, if we get to 50 issues, you can look back and go, wow, that was time well spent. Those stories were great. And I wanted it to have an impact on people the way a lot of those stories had an impact on me, whether it was comics or whether it was movies or whether it was animation or whatever it might have been. I wanted it to leave people, like, you know how there's some episodes of Batman the Animated Series where you're like, man, is this room getting dusty or something? Or,
yeah, this is something in my eye.
Yeah.
Who's cutting onions over in the next room? Yeah,
You know,
no, I get you.
Yeah, and it's like that too for a lot of different episodes of shows where they're able to not just entertain you, but there's something about the story, something about the characters, something about the themes being played out where it tugs at you emotionally, and it really gets you. You care for these fictional beings, you know, and that's masterful storytelling. That, you know, it's not real, but the emotion you feel is real. And to me, that was always like, that's a level of storytelling. I don't know if I'll ever be there, but King Cryptid,
I don't know, man, with those first 4 episodes of King Cryptid that I read, man,
I'm aiming for it with King Cryptid, and I feel confident enough to at least attempt to aim for it. And at that point in time, when I was making stories before, it was more about telling a story in more of a procedural kind of way.
Right.
It's difficult to describe, you know, when you're looking to try to tell a story that you feel like maybe no one has done this before, maybe this kind of subject hasn't been told yet, and you're trying to do something. There's an ambition behind that, but it's different than when it is when you're trying to tell something that is you on the page. Yeah, it's way, like, King Cryptid's way more personal than the chair. If someone goes, I absolutely hate the chair, I'll go, okay, well, thanks for reading. King Cryptid, I'll say the same thing. I'll say, okay, well, thanks for reading. But inside, I'm like, oh.
But does that mean you don't like me? This is a really personal story.
This is me. This means something to me.
Right.
You know, so it was like
I
that.
can tell.
You know,
I can tell reading it.
But
man.
No contempt for anybody who enjoys or doesn't enjoy it. Absolutely, right. I'm not that kind of person. To me, once you make art and you put it out there, that's for people to interpret and enjoy how they're going to enjoy it. And if someone's not getting what I'm going for, it's not their fault, it's mine, you know. But at the same time, I have to make sure I'm creating something and being true to the story and the characters and doing what I believe is best for all of that, and then hopefully it is also great for the reader. But so everything that came about with Alterna was interesting because we went print on demand, we went graphic novels. We didn't really put out single issues. We started putting out single issues in 2017 because I saw everybody with graphic novels and trades. It was all over the place. The market was unbelievably flooded, to the point that, like, we had a New York Times bestseller in 2012. It didn't matter. We had, it just, especially in comic shops, it just didn't matter. No matter what we did to promote how good we were doing and what we were making, it didn't seem to matter. The chair getting a film didn't really seem to matter. We got national press coverage for a book called Metaphase, probably around, I'd say around maybe 2017, 2018, something like that. But the book had come out a couple of years before as a graphic novel. Yeah. And it had to do with, it was written by a man who has a son that has Down syndrome, and he wrote it for his kid, basically, where in the story there's a superhero and his son has Down syndrome, and his son wants to be like the superhero dad that he has, but he can never really be like him. So he goes to try to get this genetic treatment, and these supervillains run this genetics lab and kind of alter his DNA in an unexpected way. So what happens in that book, it's a nice heartwarming story between father and son, but it got national press coverage eventually when everything started getting a little oddly woke, and they were going for that kind of angle. Now, unbeknownst to us, of course, at the time, that's what was kind of occurring. But it was interesting to me to see that occur, and it still didn't mean a damn thing at comic shops. The dude was on NBC Nightly News, getting press coverage across the board, CBS,
Wow.
ABC, all over the place. And still didn't seem to matter. So a New York Times bestseller, a film adaptation, and a book that was getting national press coverage across the board, television coverage even too, and none of it seemed to matter. But I think it did seem to matter because we were painting a target slowly but surely on our backs. So 2017,
yes, how dare you create quality that people enjoy?
Yeah. So 2017 rolls along. We put out the newsprint single issues in May of 2017. $1.50 on newsprint. So these are two things being done that people in comics were told could not be done for decades. You couldn't put comics on newsprint again because it just was impossible, and you definitely couldn't get comics affordable again on that level because it just wasn't possible. Then Alternatives creator owned 100% at that point too. So
Right.
it really starts to make people look bad when we come along and do all these three impossibilities. And then we're doing the other things that we were doing. So looking back on it, we were obviously getting noticed in some way, shape, or form. But at the time, I just wasn't thinking about a lot of this stuff, even though I kind of should have known better. So that rolls along 2017 to 2020. We have distribution with Diamond still, getting these comics out there. And the reason we started selling direct was because Diamond kept dropping the ball on reorders. So we would go and we would sell out of stuff day one. And I'm looking at the orders pile up in the back order system.
Right.
And you can't ship them out. Diamond will fine you, and they will throw your books away. We had it happen. Yeah, so let's say I can see like hundreds of orders piling up in the back order area. So if I'm not getting a purchase order, and I go, okay, they're going to cancel it out in a month because they had a 28-day or so auto cancel system. And if they don't issue a purchase order, those orders all get canceled. So you could have like 1,000 orders there. If they don't send that purchase order to you, you are not allowed to send it. If you do send it, they will throw those books away and fine $150. And they did that to us one time, and I was like, I'm never doing that again.
That is ridiculous. That is utterly ridiculous. Wow.
Yeah. So what happened with that? We lost, I think, about 2,000 or 3,000 orders in 2017, and I said we got to start selling direct because this is crazy.
I mean, how are you supposed to survive missing that many orders?
Yeah.
Like, as a small independent publisher. Like,
and people were going to eBay to pay like 3 to 4 times the cover price, and I'm sitting here with a bunch of boxes because we did overprints.
Right.
So we had a whole overrun, and I'm just like, you could just buy it from us. And so we start selling direct. We started selling on Etsy. And then eventually we got too big for the Etsy store. It made sense to just sell direct on our own site. So come to 2020 when the pandemic hits, at that point in time, we lost upwards of like 16,000 reorders through Diamond.
Holy shit.
And we would have lost probably over 20 if I didn't absolutely like beg our brand managers to please send the purchase order. It's 2,000 orders. Can you please send it? We've got like 4 books, and in total that's 2,000 issues that need to go to the shop. So that by the time someone were to place that order, let's say that we got the purchase order 3 weeks in from when they were placed, then Diamond would get it in about 2 weeks when we send it out, and then Diamond would then send it out, and that would take like another 2 weeks. So now you're talking about over a month and a half for a shop to get those reorders.
Yeah.
But if they order direct from us and we have it in stock, I ship it out usually either in a day or two, sometimes the same day. So it was incredibly frustrating. So in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we left Diamond. That was it. We left every distributor in 2020. We left Comixology. We left our book distributor. We left all of them because every single one of them was becoming a nightmare to deal with. So we don't
moving archaically, man.
Yeah, we don't work with distributors at this point. We just sell direct. And thankfully we're able to do so because so many readers out there support what we're doing. They love our comics. They spread the word, all that good stuff. So because of that, something unusual happened. For the first time, not being in the grind of the distribution system, the traditional system, it opened up a small window of time for me to be creative again.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to really be. I had so many ideas over the years for stories that eventually I saw other people do, and I was like, all right, cross that one off. You know, that came
Right.
out. Some other person did it. And then I actually had time, but still, every time I was keeping track of it, no one was doing exactly what King Cryptid was.
Yes.
And in 2018, I started having the idea that, okay, one day I'm going to make it a goal, no matter what. I'm going to try to do, even if it's a mini-series, I'm going to try to do this series I want to do. And so I started putting Easter eggs on the covers of It Came Out on a Wednesday. I did 2 covers, one for number 7 that features the Granite Beast in his original form. So it's a cameo of him, and I was like, I'm going to use that character one day. And then another one was in issue 15 of It Came Out on a Wednesday, which turned into Broog the Swamp Monster. And I knew I wanted to do something with monsters. I knew I wanted to make something about the paranormal, the supernatural, the unknown, unexplained, cryptids, beasts, all that kinds of stuff. And I wanted to have a creature, a humanoid monster creature, permanent, not a shapeshifter or anything, be the star of the book. I knew I wanted to do that. And then one day the name King Cryptid came to me. I didn't have anything else. Just King Cryptid came to me. So I wrote it down. I was like, that sounds comic booky and good. So I wrote that down.
It rolls off the tongue, man. It's ear catching, you know?
Yeah. And then I had what King Cryptid's real name is, which is Crowan, Krowan. And I was going to call the book at first Crowan the Cursed. But I was like, that sounds a little too fantasy-ish.
Well, I mean, it's still got the same letters, too, KC.
Yeah.
You know, Crowan the Cursed, King Cryptid, yeah.
So I was kind of building up the mythos over the course of a year, but I had no other catchy name for King Cryptid other than King Cryptid. That was the only one I wrote down, and that was it. That was all that ever came to me, and then his real name that was established. So everything else started falling into place, and it was really strange how it all came to be because of the fact that I would get a lot of these ideas just out of nowhere, and I would write them down, and that would happen. So it felt a lot of the time like ideas were coming through me, not that I had to sit there and really, you know. And
you needed to tell this story, like you were saying.
Yeah. So I love the subject matter already. That was established, you know, for a very long time. But the character and the characters within King Cryptid were coming to me just randomly sometime, and I would just write down notes on my phone or just a piece of paper wherever, or I'd be on the computer and I'd have an idea. And that's how I started amassing the concept that, well, maybe I could do an ongoing series. I have definitely enough ideas here that keep coming to me over the course of a year. I didn't even create anything at this point yet. Just did like a loose sketch of what I would want this character to look like because I wanted the name to be descriptive.
Yeah.
Like the way Bigfoot is a descriptive name. Mothman is a descriptive name. And they sound like comic book characters, too.
They really do.
You know, so King Cryptid, he's not king of the cryptids. King Cryptid is being called King Cryptid because of the way he looks. And if you were to just see him for that fleeting moment, you'd see that kind of silhouette shape of a crown and then some kind of, you know, regalness to him. His winged cape sort of looks like that, and then he'd be gone. And so I established that that's why he would be called that. But where you get into it eventually, where at one point in time, especially early on, it was a mocking title because King Cryptid was cursed and betrayed 500 years ago by his own people. So when he was turned into this form, he was mockingly called King Cryptid by whatever. I can't give away the specific dialect because that would give away too much in terms of location. And that's an important aspect to the story. So I won't give that away. But in that dialect, it would mean something to be King Cryptid, like king of the beasts, king of the creatures, that kind of a thing. And then eventually throughout legend and myth, in the cursed state that he was in, which was a very inhuman, bestial state, his name would kind of be, you know, whispered in hushed tones, sort of a thing.
Yeah, he becomes kind of a boogeyman in that regard.
For about 100 or so years, it was like, this guy's a bad guy. Watch out for him. There's all kinds of legends and myths because this creature is said to have done horrible, monstrous things. But it's because of the fact that King Cryptid at that point in time didn't have his moonstone, the cosmic moonstone that he has above like his third eye, basically. That was given to him later on by a shaman who recognized who this is, and it restores his inner humanity. But the curse actually keeps his humanity completely within. So he's like trapped. He's in a nightmarish state for about 100 years, trapped for Lord knows how long he's supposed to be this way. And
Yeah.
he's powerless to do these horrible things, killing and consuming whatever in his path, human, animal, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
So that's how all these horrible stories grew of him. When he finally is able to have his inner humanity again, he is just racked with guilt about knowing that he did all these things. Even though he didn't do these things, that cursed state he was in a possessed state, essentially.
Right.
That's what did it. But he still knows, he still has those memories of what he did. So he's been on a redemption arc for roughly 300 or so, 300 to 350 years. And he's still
Trying to make up for
seek,
that century of destruction and death.
Yeah, and he's still trying to seek redemption in some way. Eventually, he kind of makes peace with the fact that he can only do so much. But he almost makes a reluctant peace with it. And we touch base with that in issue 6. He has kind of an existential moment where he doesn't really know what he should do. He feels like, I've done so much, I've tried to help so much over the years. I mean, 300 or so years. So he's been doing stuff from the 1700s to the 1900s to 2000s at that point.
Up
And
in the
he's
White
feeling
Mountains up in New Hampshire, right?
all around. We get into some of that in flashback issues in the future. But so he's been, I mean, he helped out during the American Revolutionary War. He helped out during the Civil War. And eventually he starts being more and more insular and isolated because not only is he becoming jaded by humanity, but he's also, there's a lot of people he's loved and lost because he is an immortal as far as he knows. He doesn't know when he could die. He knows that he possibly could die because he could sustain enough damage.
Right.
But he doesn't, he's not just going to naturally die. He's not invincible, but he's immortal. So what happens with him is that he decides, okay, I'm just going to take care of my little corner of the world. Everybody else can take care of whatever. I don't really think I'm doing much anyway. So unbeknownst to him, by him doing that and growing more insular, he actually, under his nose, there were a lot of things growing. A lot of bad things. A lot government groups growing specifically within the White Mountain region of New Hampshire. So, and specifically New Hampshire has a lot of odd paranormal and even military history as far as the paranormal is concerned. And we get into a lot of that during the course of the series. New England in general has a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but New Hampshire in particular has, and I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be on the nose with any of this and have someone knock on my door one day and be like, what do you know?
What have you been researching? We'll be
Right.
taking that computer of yours. Wait, no.
But, so there's some stories that come into my head and I'm like, should I write that? That seems like I might be onto something here and I might get in trouble. And I still write them anyway, so we'll see.
You gotta be honest with the story. You know, you gotta be honest with the story, man.
Right, and if something happens to me, I guess you guys can sell these things on eBay and hopefully put your kids through college or whatever. So as far as some of the stories go, we really dive deep into the historical lore. There's almost a historical fiction element to King Cryptid.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of it that is, the paranormal history is real. And it's grounded and based in events that have occurred, at least in terms of being reported and purported. So it's not stuff that necessarily I'm making up on those levels, but there are a lot of the creatures, the cryptids, a lot of the people in the book. Obviously, those are not
right,
as far as I know, based on living creatures and people. Although, who knows? Maybe we're manifesting.
The truth is
King
stranger
Cryptid
than
right
fiction,
now.
my friend. Yeah.
So that's the thing, is that he eventually finds that, holy smokes, there's a lot of stuff happening around where what is happening here? Because there's a lot of weirdness occurring, too much too soon, and it seems like because I went lax with everything, stuff was allowed to grow at an accelerated pace, exponentially so. And right under his nose, literally right under, underneath even the ground he walks on in some cases. Yeah. So now he's seeing a lot of stuff that's occurring. At first he's thinking it's kind of coincidence. issue 1, we have the Behemoth, who is a genetic experiment. He's a human being merged with the DNA of the legendary Mothman. When he escapes, King Cryptid has an encounter with him and the people who were transporting this creature. King Cryptid learns that there's a couple things going on through reading the Behemoth's mind. So there's a cryptid bounty hunter involved that's been hired by a mysterious organization to track down the Behemoth and bring him back. This guy used to be a big game hunter. Now he's a merc for hire doing cryptid bounty hunting. His name is Victor Lugo. So Victor Lugo basically has a bunch of these guys with him, and they're going hunting for Behemoth. They find that there's also something else. Lugo calls it in and finds out from his contact that King Cryptid, who they have not seen in 30 or so years, is running around. He's alive. He's well. He's not just a campfire story. This thing is back. So now he's got to hunt. Yeah. So now he's got to hunt both of these fellas down.
Yeah.
So that's basically the events of issue 1. It sets the course for what's happening. I didn't want to tell the story in a linear way where we do like the origin story of King. I wanted to go right into it.
No, and I love it, man. I love the fact that the first issue just kind of dumps you right in, and you get enough exposition to tell, like to get an idea of what's going on. But the storytelling, of the current story, what's going on with Behemoth, is enough to get you into this world. That's what I mean by you've kind of struck that balance of the magic that the old episodic Marvel comics used to have. It brings you in with just a little bit of exposition, and then you're there for the adventure, and the adventure tells the rest of the story. It informs the world around you.
Exactly.
It's good stuff, man.
Yeah, like
Feline wants to know if you've done any field research. If you've gone out and done any field research.
Yeah, I've been to America's Stonehenge, which is also known as Mystery Hill. That's in Salem, New Hampshire. That's a very interesting place. A very strange place. It's said to have been originally...
I've never been there.
Yeah, it's said to originally have been constructed by Celtic druids. That's the story, because there's certain carvings that match very old Celtic druidic kind of carvings from across the Atlantic Ocean.
How exactly
roughly,
did they get there?
Yeah, and they're roughly like something like 2,000 years old, something along those lines. They're old. And then I've been up in the White Mountains a bunch. And even that, I grew up in New York. Then I moved to Massachusetts. I always wanted to leave New York. I never felt like I fit there.
Right.
I didn't vibe with it, right? And then Massachusetts was a little bit better or whatever, but my wife grew up in Massachusetts, and then I went up to go. We just decided to live there because I'm not moving and staying in New York. We're not gonna.
Right.
So we went and we stayed there. But she always wanted to be up in New Hampshire, and when we went up and we visited here, it just spoke to me. The whole region just spoke to me. It felt. I felt like, I don't know, I felt like I was at home in some way, shape, or form. It's strange. It's tough to describe to people in a coherent way unless you know the kind of feeling I'm talking about.
I went to college in New Hampshire, so I mean, I get it. I love the feeling up there. And Feline used to live up in Maine. She used to live in Bar Harbor, Maine. So she knows what it's like as well. There's something about New England in general. I love the whole vibe, the change of seasons, the feeling. And I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff that goes on up there. Like there's all kinds of interesting things, whether it be cryptids or aliens or what have you. There's all kinds of interesting stuff, to put it plainly.
Oh, absolutely. I'm relatively close to Exeter. They had the Exeter UFO incident back in the day.
Yeah.
Which is still unsolved and is still treated in a hush-hush way.
That makes you wonder why.
Yeah. The Betty and Barney Hill abduction that occurred near Lincoln, New Hampshire in 1961. That even works its way into the King Cryptid storyline with issue 3. We have a flashback with the kids looking for something on the 23rd anniversary of that. They're looking for something in the woods. They're trying to find King Cryptid or aliens or whatever. They think it has some kind of special meaning. And then they do come across King Cryptid, but they come across a lot of other stuff that they're just not aware of that plays out in issue 8, and then later on in issue 11 as well. So
I
there's
really
all kinds
like
of
the
stuff.
cliffhanger at the end of issue 3.
Yeah.
Where he's got the picture and it's like, wait a minute, I'm
It's
curious
like,
to see how
why
that's going
is
to play
this
out.
here? It can't be a coincidence. There's so many things that occur within it that within just the series in general, whether it's King Cryptid experiencing them or other characters, where there's coincidences, but they're not coincidences.
Yeah.
There's things that are purposefully happening. And in issues 5 to 9, so 1 to 4 sets up the world. We have characters, we have all kinds of things. King Cryptid is starting to sense that something strange is happening. Too many things are happening. Things are happening too quickly.
Yeah.
And it just seems like something's in the air. Right? He can't put his nose, he doesn't have a nose. We explained that eventually too. He can't seem to put his finger on it. So in issues 5 to 9 though, he really starts to, especially at the end of 9, he starts to understand there is something very purposeful being done, very, very bad, very evil. Stuff that's happening is not being done just because. This isn't just coincidence. This isn't just odd timing. This is something that's being done specifically by corrupt science mixed with dark magic. And then there's something else into it too that he's not essentially aware of at this point, and the reader's not aware of it yet, but we will become aware of it eventually. So there's a lot of stuff that's happening. There's the New England Cryptid Research Organization, the acronym of NECRO.
Yeah.
They're a cover for a cover for a cover. It's a front of a front of a front. So they have this appearance. You see it right there. There's Victor Lugo's badge. So day 1 and day 2 backers of the campaign got this badge, and they're getting it
nice.
free. So you get special access. I got the QR code blurred out because it takes you to a certain page. I don't want you to know what it is yet. I don't want anybody to scan it. No cheating.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's
though.
blurred out. So when you get it, you could scan it and you could see what you do, what you can potentially gain access to if you can gain access to it.
Right.
But that's the Necro badge of Victor Lugo's that it plays a big part in the story. So that's everybody essentially has Victor Lugo's badge in this. But yes, so there's stuff that happens in issues 5 to 9, which is currently funding, where King Cryptid is now dead set certain. No, there's things that are happening. There's things that are happening, and he needs to make a stand. He needs to do something about it. He's kind of taken a backseat for too long, and feels like that was the wrong move to make. And now he's got ground to cover. He's got ground to make up for. So 5 to 9, well, technically 1 to 9 sets up everything. And we have all of it's like you were talking about, self-contained stories. These are complete stories each issue, but there's continuity involved. They all connect, but you never are done reading one issue and feel like, wow, I have no idea what this story was even about. That was very purposeful. I wanted to make it that, okay, here is a day in the life of. Because the King Cryptid series is like that. It's like this is the life and the adventures and the journey of King Cryptid and the world around him and the people around him and the creatures around him. And just like life,
I love it.
Every day is a different issue, but they all connect.
Yeah.
So it's not like a big giant story arc is going to ever play out. That's not how it's going to be. Issue 10 for next year will be a bigger issue. It'll be a king-sized issue.
Nice.
And that'll be about maybe 2.5 issues long. It'll be about 55, 56 pages long, so 64 pages with ads. But that's going to tell a bigger story, but it's not going to be multiple issues required. So you could still... And I want people to go in this too. I'm not offended by this. If people do want to pick up like a certain issue because they dig the cover and they go, oh, I like the way that monster looks or that issue sounds interesting, pick up that issue. And if you do enjoy that, check out the other ones if you're able to. But there's going to be certain times where if people want to pick up issue 10, let's say, and just issue 10, because they like the sound of it, the story's going to be called Killer King. If they do want to pick that up, they could do that. They don't have to pick up. It was originally going to be 10, 11, and 12. I figured, you know what? Let me just make it one big issue. So then I have 11 and 12 are different stories. So this way, next year's campaign will have 10, 11, 12, and 13. And if we raise 50,000 on this year's campaign, then I could do 14. I could have 5 issues. But the reason that we don't have 5 issues next year is because 10 is so big. So
Yeah.
so we'll definitely have 10 to 13 next year, and I've got all kinds of stories with that too. I've talked about we're bringing in Santa Claus next year.
Nice. Yeah.
So Santa's reindeer are cryptids, and he's got to help.
I mean, they're flying reindeer. Of course they are.
I love every time Santa appears in comics. I have like a subset of comics I collect that feature Santa Claus in them.
Sure.
And I don't know. I love Santa. I love Christmas. So I figure it's my series. We're close enough to the North Pole.
Right.
We're going to have Santa and cryptids, with these reindeers are cryptids. So King Cryptid
Might as
can
well play off of it,
telepathically,
sure.
King Cryptid can telepathically communicate with cryptids and animals, but not people. So he can telepathically communicate with these reindeer, and they've become separated from Santa. So King Cryptid has to help them find where Santa is. Now, of course,
dude, that's like a perfect Christmas issue, though. Like
Exactly.
That's a perfect Christmas comic book issue. helping Santa get his reindeer back, or helping the reindeer find Santa.
Totally.
That's classic comics with Santa in them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because we have a Halloween issue number 8 this year. And then next year we'll have a Christmas issue. I've ever since I was a kid, I wanted to have these kinds of comics. Yeah.
Wolf is saying I feel like a kid again right now. Yeah,
Exactly.
And that's what these comics do, man. I'm telling you, the first 4 issues, I really felt like I was back in my room as a kid reading comics and enjoying them, getting caught up in the adventure like I did back in the day.
Yeah, totally. That's the whole point for me. Even with this, is to tap into a state of storytelling in which I feel like I am telling a story that's already occurred.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is not like I try really hard not to say things like I'm having these characters do this, because to me that's just not true. What I'm doing is I'm telling you guys the story that I am hearing, and I know that makes it sound.
You're recording the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that makes it sound a little bit like Pete's a little on the, but at the same time, every single storyteller, musicians, right? The music flows through them. They're not sitting there and like purposefully trying to come up with a lot. They get into the flow state. And it's the same thing that occurs with me. I'm getting into like a flow state, and I don't do any altered state of mind sort of things.
So you're just getting into this state naturally.
I just get into this, and I've always gotten into this kind of state naturally when it comes to creating and coming up with stuff. I could just spin a story whenever. It's strange, and I hate saying stuff like that too, because storytelling is difficult. But the editing part is when my consciousness kicks in.
Right.
So that's when it's like, okay, let's make sure that this is good, this is concise, this is good pacing, and that things make
good
sense.
Good structure, continuity. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And but there's also enough in here with the story where there's an element of mystery and surprise. It's not, you can't just tell a linear, logical story that's so predictable it's boring. So you got to throw stuff in there too that builds and makes sense. So it's that kind of thing where with this story, with King Cryptid, every single story being connected is it enables me to really build up the world and build and develop the characters. But at the same time, I make sure don't get lost in the world building, because that is something that can happen and really be at a detriment to the story. So it's all about making sure that every story is telling a story. And what I mean by that is because we see a lot of decompressed storytelling nowadays where things are drawn out. And so
a lot of it's writing for the trade as well.
Exactly.
Oh, we got to stretch it out and then make it fill a trade.
It's more about 100 other things than about making the best story possible and doing what makes sense with the characters involved. Like that's almost the last thing that seems like it's occurring. Everything that King Cryptid, first and foremost for me, is, does this make sense for the story, and does this make sense for the character? And then my next concern after that is this giving something of value to the reader involved? So I want that escapist element in there, but I also want elements that will resonate and hopefully have some kind of emotional thread connecting throughout. issues, I think at this point particularly, I mean, it's really tough to say that there's a particularly emotional issue in 5 to 9 because they all do pack certain emotions among the characters. I think people will probably be most hit by 7 and 9, if I had to guess. But there's elements still within 5, 6, and 8 that pack a wallop. And then if they don't pack a wallop at the moment you're reading them, as other issues start to come out, you can reference, because we have editor's notes too. You know, it's comics.
I love that, dude. So nobody does that anymore. Notes. Like, you know, the little, like, you don't want to understand why this is happening? Go check out, you know, this issue here. Yeah.
There's a conversation that occurs on the page, on the opening page of issue 8. And we got a little asterisk, and at the bottom of the page is an editor's note that says to see issue 3, because it references the conversation that they're talking about on the opening page of issue 8. But the thing is that there's a really quick recap of why they're doing what they're doing right there. That's the opening page of issue 8. There's a quick recap in this conversation about why they're doing what they're doing. So if you didn't read issue 3, you can actually be caught up immediately in one page, without having to read a wall of text, without having to read a whole separate page that's like, well, previously and blah, 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 yes, this and that, whatever. Yeah. It's a comic. Make it happen in the comic.
Yeah, that's good storytelling, man. Long.
Yeah. But yeah, issue 9 in particular. Yeah, this one I think is going to take people by surprise. There's so many different things that occur in issue 9. The Pukwudgies, it's from Wampanoag folklore, and these guys are...
I'm glad you said that out loud, because I had no clue how to pronounce that.
Yeah, these guys are like shapeshiftery little bastards. And they play tricks, and they generally don't like people. In Wampanoag folklore, this is a little bit... it's not 100% true to what a Pukwudgie is in Wampanoag folklore, but it's true enough within the context of the story once the story is read. Pukwudgies used to be friendly with humans, and then humans had betrayed them at some point, and now Pukwudgies don't like them very much. So within this context, the Pukwudgies here are basically trying to capture King Cryptid, because King Cryptid hurt their father at some point in time. Their father doesn't like King Cryptid very much. So they're trying to be like, okay, we'll capture King Cryptid and we'll impress our father and we'll offer him up as a gift, as a sacrificial gift to their father. So they lure King Cryptid into a trap by playing a trick on him and deceiving his senses. He thinks that they're children, and they're not. They're these other creatures.
Oh, very cool. The cover.
Yeah, Kier Covington did a great job on that. The same layout, and then... one of them's these kids, and then the other one, and King Cryptid's like, what the hell is this? What's going on?
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that plays into the old comics as well, because the old comics the cover used to be about what's going on in the comic.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So in this issue particularly, and
Thank
we
you,
learn...
Gordon. I appreciate that.
Yeah, he'd be pretty good. Luke would be pretty good for King Cryptid. But we learn more about King Cryptid. He's got a soft spot. We're not explaining it heavy-handedly, but he's got a soft spot for kids. He really cares about kids.
They're innocent, you know. For the most part, we kind of
touch upon why on issue 5. At the opening of issue 5, there's something that occurs where we catch up with King Cryptid, and we give a glimpse into what's occurring. King Cryptid is he cares a lot about kids. So there's stuff that happens in this issue where he learns about certain things, and that's what hits him really hard. And and there's certain elements that play out within the story. There's certain things that occur within the story where he is mortified about what he is finding out, and that's when he is dead set against the stuff that's happening, because he realizes that no, this is something much bigger that's occurring. But yeah, so in issue 5 we have the White Mountain Yeti. In issue 6 we've got the Dragon Vanderken. In issue 7 we've got werewolves. We got a werewolf couple, and
nice.
It's a very emotional story with the werewolf couple. And then issue 8 we've got that flashback issue to 1987. We touch upon the story that played out in issue 3, and we connect it directly. But the events that play out in issue 8, there's a lot that happens, especially at the end of issue 8, where issue 11, which is the next time we touch base with that story, that's going to be a lot of fun. And if you see every single issue, we've got a front cover and a back cover.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is this. It's not a variant. You flip it over, and then you get another cover.
Yeah, I love that, man.
So it's not a flip book, but you do get 2 covers for each issue. So it's like that with all of them. And on the back cover of issue 8 is my cover. I did that cover, and it has the gray aliens on there.
Yeah.
And you could see King Cryptid reflected in their eyes, and the lead alien says, "Hello, Crowan. It's good to see you again."
See, and I love stuff like that, man. I like again, it plays into what's happening in the issue, But I love the little word balloons. I'm all about word balloons on covers, especially when they serve the story inside the issue.
Yeah. It's part of it, right? It's. I feel like a lot of modern comics, especially in the mainstream, have become kind of embarrassed to be comics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know some people enjoy like the Virgin cover that doesn't have any text layout on it. I hate that. It's just a pin-up to me.
I mean, at that point, I guess I can understand if you want to put put it up on your wall, just put that cover up on the wall. But at that point, I would almost rather have like a poster that I could put up for that.
Yes, exactly. Even if it was like prints, just like prints that were comic book size,
Totally. That way you can put it in a bag and board.
Because I like the art, but I don't like the idea of the interior of the comic not mattering at all. Like it's all about just the cover, and being kind of embarrassed that within it would be a story that's a comic. So I try to get away from that. I don't do anything like that. We're fully embracing the fact this is a comic book. It looks like a comic book. There's comic book elements to it. There's text on the cover. There's things that explain and hint at the story inside, or sometimes provide misdirection, like the top cover here, the front one, for issue 8. We've got all 4 kids looking like they're being abducted by aliens, when in reality only one of those kids is getting abducted in this issue. But I like the idea of people wondering, what's happening here? Do all 4 actually get taken? So there's almost a mystery that occurs too, but it paints a nice picture here, and Alex did a great job. Alex Jovich did a great job with this, and you could see King Cryptid in the background. King Cryptid, who looks like he's too late to save them from their fate, and that does occur too within the issue. But again, which kid is getting abducted, you'll find out. But that's a Halloween
I love the word
special.
balloons. Jeff, forget the candy. Never!
Yeah. So we got Linda up top, we got their friend Ernie, and then we have Eric on the right, and then Jeff at the bottom, and they're brothers. And and Eric's just like, what are you doing, man?
Drop the candy.
And Jeff's
sugar.
sitting there, he's thinking like, if I'm gonna get abducted by aliens, I'm eating this candy.
They're not getting my candy.
And they got like those Ben Cooper costumes, because this is 87. So they've got those masks that'll cut your face.
God.
All that stuff.
That'll cut your tongue. You stick your tongue through the mouth slit. Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. Been
There's a part in it because Jeff constantly wants to remove his mask, but he feels weird about it because he thinks he's not going to get candy if he keeps his mask up. But he's like, I'm sweaty, I'm hot, and Eric's like, well, take the mask off. And then Jeff's like, yeah, but then I'm not going to get candy if I'm not dressed. So you have these nice little moments with the kids. Yeah. And then you get Ernie, who's dressed like a Jedi, and he took like his dad's bathrobe and is wearing sweats. And he's painted his like baseball bat to look like a lightsaber. Just like fun little stuff within the comic here.
Yeah.
But
there's a lot of storytelling on the cover,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So just this whole series is just so much fun, and I'm glad that you and a lot of other people are really enjoying the first 4 issues. I think people are really going to love the next 5. And if you missed 1 to 4, you can get the catch-up tier, which is actually there.
That's what I did right here.
Yeah, number 1 to 9, and then we offer on the campaign digital copies as well. So if you are international, don't want to pay shipping, or you just like digital copies, you could get that too. There's all kinds of other stuff on the campaign. We got a collector box. We've got a binder. You can read my story script and see what I'm giving to the artists. So I've got that on there too. And
all kinds of stuff. There's something for everybody on this campaign. I mean,
Totally.
it really is. There's look, see, here's the binder, y'all, and then they got card packs. Like, and I don't know if you've heard some of the amazing artists that he's got doing cards that he's slipping in the sketch cards to these card packs. But I mean, it's pretty incredible, man.
Oh yeah, like here I'll show.
By the way, some person wants to know: did you have to learn how to ink differently for newsprint?
No. With newsprint, you have to and you can do it all through any kind of graphics program. I use Photoshop. But you just have to make sure that you're adjusting the total ink coverage to be different for newsprint as opposed to a different kind of paper stock.
Yeah.
So you want to keep the total ink coverage below 230, preferably around 210, 215 would be ideal. And then don't put too much black in your color mix when you're making a color a certain shade, because it'll really dominate that shade. But other than that, it's really not that complicated. You just got to make sure that it's not fully saturated with ink. Otherwise, when it goes to print, if it is really saturated with ink, like you could put a lot more ink on a coated paper stock,
right?
And it won't offset onto the other page. But if you do that with newsprint, not only will it sometimes even bleed through, but it will absolutely impress like silly putty onto the other page.
Oh, no kidding! Wow.
Yeah. But once you understand
That's
that,
awesome.
and I mean, I've talked to we've had like 5 printers we've worked with. And once I've talked to them about it, this particular printer is great. They've been amazing. Talking to the printers has been very helpful, more helpful than anything else. I encourage anybody to, before they're doing anything with a book, talk to the printer. They'll let
Absolutely
you know
what you're getting into.
But so here we got
Wolf
like
says
Dan
he's
Lawless.
sold.
Thank
That's
you,
awesome.
Wolf.
Yeah.
Dan Lawless doing these are sketch cards that are going to be randomly inserted in the packs. So we got Dan Lawless doing a King Cryptid.
Lawless
He's also
is fantastic.
You also got one of the werewolves here, the White Mountain Yeti.
Oh, nice.
And these are all, I like seeing the different artistic interpretations.
Broog!
We got Broog.
That was
And
a
then
good one.
Dan Dahl drawing some Pukwudgies.
Doll's great.
Yeah, the Dragon Vanderken as well.
Nice.
Who's like he's like a humanoid dragon. Touch upon that in issue 6. There's the White
Yeti.
Mountain Yeti again. And then Fabrizio Aiello with Victor Lugo.
Nice.
And the Granite Beast. And these are just some of the cards that are going to be randomly inserted. And then Rob Geronimo with the White Mountain Yeti. But
dude, I love seeing all the, like you said, the different versions,
Yeah. And that's what I love too, because it treats it like they're real cryptids.
Yeah.
Because there's always an artistic rendition. And they always look kind of different, but sort of the same. And then we've got the trading cards through the series as well. And in the second series, which is what these are, it's cards 9 to 18. The first series was cards 1 to 8. All those packs are gone, but you could still purchase cards 1 to 8 separately. And they look like this, these cards. So they all have the covers on them, because I thought that would be great. I love cards that feature that. But on the back, some of them have descriptions of the characters and the issue. But on the back of others, like on the flip side cover that I was showing, the back covers, on those trading cards, they have the New England Cryptid Research Organization cover-up file.
Nice.
So sometimes you could read those and it adds something to the story. And sometimes it's kind of on the nose as far as what occurs within the issue, because that's their case file. And then sometimes they're like, no, that didn't really happen. This happened instead. And you're like,
we gotta have a cover story.
Yeah, and it's like a literal cover story.
So I love the fact that you have glow in the dark T-shirts.
Yeah. So we got glow in the dark. We had glow in the dark last year too, and people really love those. We're doing the same stuff this year with the same manufacturer, but it's with that Nick Hunter, that amazing image that he created.
Okay, I was going to ask who did the image for this. Is the contrast is beautiful on this.
Yeah. Because it's the same image that I hired him to make the image for the binder, and then and I said it's going to be a black binder, so just put King Cryptid in white and utilize the black will be basically the binder itself. So there it is. And so he did that, and it was just so beautiful. I was like, can I use this for other things too? He's like, use it for whatever you want.
That's fantastic.
Because that's just the kind of dude Nick is. Nick is incredible.
Awesome.
All the artists on this series are great. But
you've got some amazing talent on this series, man. And I like the kind of the rotating art chores. You know, and it works for each story. You know, each artist brings a unique flair to each story that they're working on, and it's cool. You know, like this one right here. You know, issue 3 that will connect to issue 8. You know, that had a unique feel to it. It felt very very Halloween.
You know. And it's been a lot of fun like that, and then it also it allows me to get a lot of issues done instead of having one artist make 5 issues, you know, and perhaps even get burnt out from it. Or maybe, you know, there's some really talented, I've said this 1,000 times, but there's some really talented artists out there. But when it comes to drawing kids, it's like horrible, freakish little adults, right?
Yeah, it's not easy.
They don't look like kids. They look like tiny little horrifying adults. Too many lines on the face. The proportions are weird, you know. So Alex,
heads are big on spindly little bodies. Yeah.
So Alex does a tremendously great job drawing kids that look like kids. But then there's some artists that maybe couldn't do that, and I know for a fact there's some that couldn't do that. But it's that kind of a thing. I'm picking an artist based on how their skill set, playing up to their strengths, how that will work for the issue. So some issues are a little bit more horror focused in the feel of them. Some are more sci-fi. Some are more action and adventure. Some have more of that all ages feel where there's more kid friendly subject matter, even though it's not written for kids. But kids can still read it. Kids can read every issue of King Cryptid. The whole series could be considered all ages if you go back 30 years. And say, you know, was X-Men with Claremont and Silvestri and Jim Lee and John Byrne, et cetera, et cetera. Was that all ages? Yeah, it was viewed as all ages.
They didn't talk down to kids. They told stories that everyone could enjoy. So, I mean, that's legitimately all ages.
Exactly. You know, but now all ages has turned into too much of a buzzword for librarians and the book industry to the point that it just means like for kids.
Right.
And it's become very dumbed down. Which is that's so
it's
sad.
the worst thing we could do for kids.
It is the worst thing they could do for kids, because even children's books growing up, I mean, thematically, they touch upon some pretty intense things sometime. You know, I mean, fables and fairy tales and folklore and all that. That's some pretty heavy material. You know, there's conflict,
serious stuff.
There's forces of good and evil. You know. And obviously not all of it was like that, but it wasn't just...
A lot of it was. I mean, look at the Chronicles of Narnia, you know? There's
totally
a lot of life and death. Look at Lord of the Rings. I mean, Lord of the Rings was written for everyone, you know? Even kids were, you know, could read that, and they could still get the gravity of everything, you know? I mean, I read Chronicles of Narnia and Lord of the Rings when I was a kid, you know? The Hobbit as well.
Yeah.
You
If
know?
anything, kids really love... The conflict, the idea of good versus evil. You know, to not have that in a story, to take that element out is doing such a disservice, not just to the story, but to the reader.
I agree.
King Cryptid, we don't shy away from that kind of stuff, but there are certain characters that, like King Cryptid stays steady. He stays the course. The whole universe revolves around him. So if you had to draw it out, like it's the solar system, King Cryptid's the sun, and all the other characters are kind of orbiting him in some way, shape, or form. And sometimes they cross paths and align, whatever it may be. But King Cryptid stays who he is. He's someone that when you read the stories, you can trust who he is and how he's going to be. His character arc is pretty steady. He doesn't really have much of a character arc. He's developed already. He's set. But there's other characters that they're either coming into their own or they're going to have a character arc because of various things that happen to them and what they come across in their experiences. So like Victor Lugo, I was mentioning him before, the Cryptid Bounty Hunter. That dude has a serious character arc.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's going to go through a lot. So
it's always fun to see like those stark, tough, rugged characters that that think they know the world for what it is, and then they have I guess
they think
their
so
understanding
bad,
kind of taken,
and so good, and it's like,
and then the story goes, okay, well, you know what, you're going to go through all of this, and it's going to change the way you see the world a little bit, so you're going to develop. I love stuff like that.
Yep. Knocking him down a few pegs, and then there's a lot of development that occurs with several of the characters where they're put through situations that they really test what they're made of. They test what they're made, and King Cryptid's always being put through, but he strives to stay the course. He's got a strong sense of morality. He's got a strong sense of duty, of what he needs to do, of what he has to do. And then also he has that motivating factor of that constant need for redemption. And there's probably, if I had to guess, there's probably a part of him that thinks the reason maybe he isn't able to pass on at this point, that he's still around, is because he does have a purpose that he hasn't fulfilled yet. So
what's the age-old adage? With great power comes great responsibility. He's finally got some control over this great power that he's been given, and he's got a responsibility to do something good for the land and the people.
Absolutely, and there's a lot to the story where there's certain things that King Cryptid's not even aware of about him. So that cosmic moonstone that he has, he's not even aware of the full capabilities of it. And we get into why that occurs. We touch upon that in issue 9. But there's a lot of things that he can do that he has not been aware of for hundreds of years. So once he's aware of what he could do with that, it's going to open up a lot of possibilities within the story itself. So we have a lot of stories set up in New England. If you scroll up, there's like a locations map where each issue takes place.
Yeah.
But we're going to be leaving New England eventually, too, and branching out. Because I can't have a paranormal, supernatural type story with cryptids and not go all over the earth.
Oh, yeah. You got to use everything available.
Yeah, there's all kinds of regions to go to. There's all kinds of cultures. There's all kinds of places. And then we've got flashback stories to tell, too, because the character is so old.
Right.
So there's a
long time frame to play with.
Exactly. There is a lot to get into. But, yeah, that's the thing, is that we do eventually leave New England, and it's going to be interesting as to how we're able to do that.
Are you familiar with Pamola of Penobscot? I'm not. I've heard of Penobscot, but I'm not familiar with Pamola. Feline is asking if you're familiar.
No,
with
yeah, I've heard of Penobscot too, but not. I'll have to look that up.
I'm trying to find chat. You guys are amazing. I appreciate all you guys being here and commenting. Let's see. Done field research. It was after this, I think. Something about Pamola. There it is. Pamola of Penobscot would be a good one to add. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that one, but she spent a lot of time up in New England, so she's and she's one of the ones I was talking about. She and I always have conversations about the paranormal and esoteric type things, especially cryptids, and it's always funny to watch videos and we're like, yeah, is that real? That one doesn't feel real. This one feels made up. This one feels fake. But that one kind of creeped me out a little bit. Well,
that's the thing. Even when it comes to UFOs, it's something like 90% are pretty explainable. Yeah. But what about that 10%? And
the
10% is
kind of scary.
The 10% is thousands of cases. So it's not just like 4 or 5. Thousands of completely unexplainable cases. That's interesting. But yeah, there's so many things to touch upon within this series. I don't shy away from any of it. We're gonna have, we touch upon a lot within. We got the behemoth, which is basically a genetic mutation of the Mothman. We've got the granite beast in issue 2, which is this ancient rock beast. He's the last of a once prolific race of rock beasts. And you touch upon, you learn more about his origin in issue 2, but he comes back again. Issue 3. I don't know if you guys are
familiar. Granite is super, super friggin' hard, too.
Oh, yeah. And it's got a lot of interesting properties to it, too. Cause it's
the missing 411.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Exactly. And then in issue 3, we've got the kids with the flashback, but there's a lot of other things that take place, which basically ties into the extraterrestrials, the gray aliens, the Zeta Reticulans. Then issue 4, we've got Brug the Swamp Monster, who exists in Hockamuck Swamp in the Bridgewater Triangle.
Yeah.
That region in and of itself is said to be very haunted, paranormal activity, all stemming from King Philip's War and a lot of the things that had occurred back then. Then issue 5, we got the White Mountain Yeti. Issue 6, we've got the Dragon Vanderken, which has... That issue alone has a bunch of different... we kind of do some winking to... whatchamacallit? MK Ultra.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's... The Dragon Vanderken is like a humanoid dragon. And he was a human being that got mutated with, because there's a lot of stuff that's occurring within Necro, and they're doing a lot of experimentation on people, and this whole point of the dragon was supposed to create a bunch of these human living weapons turned into these dragons that are under a state of mind control. Something happens with this dragon where he breaks out and he abducts 3 people, and he goes and flies to the top of the Old Man of the Mountain, which is located in Franconia, New Hampshire. And the issue kind of explains what happens to the old man's face, because that landmark used to have a nice chiseled face that resembled, and then it fell a while ago.
I was heartbroken when I heard that it had fallen.
Yeah. And it's eerie how much it looks dead on, especially the silhouette. But so this issue sort of touches upon... what happened to the face. So King Cryptid fights against that dragon, but the dragon's formidable. King Cryptid's a big dude. He's 7'2", he's 400 pounds, but the dragon is over 16 feet tall and is incredibly powerful.
Big boy.
King Cryptid's going to need some help, and whose help he tries to get, we'll see. Issue 7, we have the werewolf couple, Wendi and William. We start the story off, I believe 1821, if I'm remembering correctly, in Dogtown Village of Massachusetts, and they're getting chased out of the village. A curse is then placed upon them because there's a witch that dabbles in the dark arts that puts a curse. This witch named Tamira puts a curse on William because she wants William. She's infatuated with him, but he won't return it because he's in love with Wendi. They're together. They're Eastern European immigrants that came over for a better life, but they're getting chased out because there's a lot of things occurring in Dogtown Village at the time. And this is traced back to history, too. Yeah. Where they were experiencing a lot of famine because the ground it's too close to the ocean, so it's difficult to turn it to farming land.
A lot of salt.
But then on top of it, it's a coastal town, so a lot of people working there. The men would be going off for either war or going on ships to fish and do whatever. So a lot of the village would just be these women with dogs to protect them, essentially, and that's what gave birth to the name Dogtown. There became a lot of kind of rumors of witchcraft and this and that and whatever, and there's all kinds of different stories about it. But in this instance, these two get this curse placed upon them, where one of them, William, he basically is a wolf every day of the month other than the days in which the moon is full. He's a human being at that point. But Wendi, and they're always together forever. And some people have compared this to Lady Hawk.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of Lady Hawk a little bit.
But yeah, and Wendi, she has the ability to become a werewolf traditionally during the nights of a full moon, but she's human on every other night. So when one is a wolf, the other is a human, and so on. So they're always together, but they're never actually together. And that's the curse, essentially. We find out why that curse was actually placed later on.
Always together, but forever apart.
Yeah. So they're cursed to be that way. So there's things that happen within that issue that I think it'll hopefully hit people kind of hard because these two have been through so much. But at the same time, there's a bunch of characters, there's a bunch of things that occur where it's going to really play a big impact down the line. Something occurs in present day in Jackson, New Hampshire, where there's an alleged attack that's occurring to the livestock and to even some of the kids in the area, and it's being blamed upon a creature. some kind of creature is doing it. So
Yeah.
we see the return of Victor Lugo and his task force. Victor Lugo at this point looks pretty different based on what happened to him in issue 1.
Yeah.
And so he's so he's hunting
He brought
down
that upon himself, though.
Yeah, he's lucky he got away with what he got away with. And so he's hunting down with his task force, hunting down this werewolf creature. The things that happen within that issue, you're going to see a couple moments here with Victor Lugo that make you go, I don't like this guy. This guy's not my kind of guy. He was just doing his job in issue 1. Not really a good guy, but just doing his job. Now he's got a very dark edge to him, and he's become more ruthless and cunning. And so we'll see that play out within issue 7. But
Nice.
yeah, so then issue 8, we've got those aliens, we got the kids, we got the flashback, and then issue 9, we've got the Pukwudgies, and also some of the other strange things that occur within that issue. So we touch upon a lot of different things just within the first 9 issues, and then there's so much more to come. So,
and I love the fact that you're using history and you know, here's my favorite word, verisimilitude. You know, that verisimilitude, pulling the stuff that actually happened and weaving it into the mythology that you're building. It helps ground it and helps make it all feel real, and it connects it to the world that we live in. You know, it was part of the thing that made old Marvel Comics so great, right? You know, it was connected to our real world. It was the world outside your window. Well, this is the paranormal world outside your window.
yeah. And that's the thing. I used to describe the series being like, oh, it's a world like ours. I gave up on that. This is our world.
Yeah, exactly. This is the world we live in. It's just, you know, it's a peek behind the curtain. It's a peek, you know, behind the veil, as it were.
Yeah, it's like the intro to Tales from the Dark Side.
Yeah.
You know, this is a world that is not as brightly lit.
I love it, man. You know, that's where the cryptids hang out. You know, that's where all the things that go bump in the night, you know, do their thing. Yes, verisimilitude. Oh, also, some person wanted to know earlier, what is your version of Excelsior? Since you are, you know, essentially the Stan Lee of Alterna, what is your version of Excelsior, my friend?
I don't think I have one. The closest thing I even have to one at this point is when I do comic book radio, and I wish for people to have a great night and an even better tomorrow.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, I don't really have one.
I think this would probably be mine. The verisimilitude. Yeah, verisimilitude. That's I guess that would be my Excelsior. Although it doesn't have quite the same impact as Excelsior does, I have to admit.
Yeah. Although it's funny, Excelsior being the state motto of New York, and then also being packing material.
Yeah. Yeah, I always wondered where Stan got that from, and now I know. You know, he's packing some stuff up, and like, you know, he's living in New York. He's like, yes, Excelsior.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. Guys, seriously, if you haven't jumped on King Cryptid, you really need to. It is good storytelling. It's good comic booking, as Kelsey likes to say. You know, it's just really enjoyable stories. These are adventures that you can jump into, and you don't have to have read the one before it. You know, it's good pick up and go. But if you do get them all, I highly suggest you grab the catch-up tier. If you missed them like I did, you know, the first campaign, go ahead and grab that catch-up tier so you can get, you know, issues 1 through 9, and you know, $25. You guys, you can't beat that. You know, that's nine full-size comic books.
Yeah, it's over 200 pages of story.
And it's so good. Like, it's so good, especially if you're a fan of classic comic books and storytelling. So what does the future hold for you, Pete? We'll probably we'll finish up here at 2 hours.
Holy smokes. Wow.
Yeah, what,
man.
dude, when we have conversations, man, I like to just let the conversation flow. And I will say, one of the things that I love about listening to you talk about King Cryptid is how much passion you have for this story. How excited you are to tell this story, man. That makes me excited to read it.
Thank you, man. Like I said, this is everything I love about everything. I'm just putting this into a series, and it means so much to me when people enjoy it, and I hope everybody does enjoy it. Now, what's coming up for us? Today we launched on the Alterna comic site, and not on Indiegogo, not anywhere else, just on the Alterna site. It's a campaign for winter merch and apparel. We've got all over
Thank
print
you.
hoodies, full color hoodies,
Yes.
blankets that are humongous, 60 by 80, tapestry level blankets. These beautiful fleece
huge.
blankets.
That is huge for a fleece blanket. I mean, I'm 6'2", and I can very rarely can I ever find a fleece blanket that I can actually like wrap up in and cover myself with. It's usually like I can either get my feet up to about here, or I can uncover my feet and pull it up to about here, and you know. So
Yeah.
a big fleece blanket. That's where it's at, man.
Yeah, this isn't like a little baby blanket. You know?
Yeah.
This is a full grown blanket. I'm sharing the screen. Oh, there it is. Look at that.
Yeah.
You're on the ball. It's like
I
you've
try.
done this before.
Once or twice. You know.
So yeah, this is the campaign, and we've got 11 backers so far. We're at 1,433 raise of the $5,000 goal, and like I said, we've got some really great stuff here. You can see.
Look at those hoodies.
Yeah, check these hoodies out.
Man, those are bright.
So we got front and back. That's a Blood Realm
wow.
hoodie.
Hell
Yeah,
man.
they're all great. They all got front and back. The Horace H. Hoover one came out really awesome. Fabrizio did a great design for it. So you got
wow.
Horace in the front coming out, but
Something
he's going through you.
Oh, there's something very eldritch about that one that I love. Something very Cthulhu.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we've got the King Cryptid hoodie too, with that great Keir Covington art.
Man, that is such an iconic shot of King Cryptid too.
Absolutely. And then the Nick Hunter
Speaking
on the
of
back.
iconic.
So yeah, all these hoodies are so great. We got one for Red Koi, Unit 44, Wolf and Batsy, and then we got these big giant tapestries of fleece blankets. And these things are incredible. I showed an example of because I'm using the same manufacturer that we use to do the all-over print T-shirts and the Alterna fleece blanket. And these things, the blankets are so soft. That's probably my favorite blanket. And these are going to be incredible. This is the Lands of Mordrin, a big map from Blood Realm.
Wow.
So I can't even imagine. I know Rob wants to get one and put it on his wall.
I mean, yeah, you
could.
could literally put that up on your wall as a tapestry. That is beautiful, man. I love it.
Yeah. And then the Horace H. Hoover one, that's going to be awesome. All of these are like giant cloth posters, if you want to think about it in that way. But they're unbelievably comfortable blankets, keep you warm.
Incredible.
And these are going to be delivered in December and January. So these are going to go out for this winter, so you could use them.
So you will be able to stay warm with that one, man. That is probably one of my favorite images of King Cryptid that Keir has done.
Absolutely.
Like that is just a beautiful image.
So yeah, so that's a big old blanket right there. And then we got, let's see, the Red Koi blanket as well from the issue number 1 cover.
Wow.
You see the tattooed back of Ico.
Yeah.
And then we got
I live in Florida, so I mean I don't really get to use blankets all that much. So but these are cool enough to hang up on the wall as, you know, as like you said, posters.
Yeah, giant, just cover up. If you've got a big empty wall,
Uh-huh.
if you want extra insulation in your apartment or your home.
Oh yeah. You know, don't like the drapes that you have on your window, you know, you just put this up over the window.
Up. You got one of those Ebenezer Scrooge beds, you know, you need something around there.
Oh yeah, 4-poster bed, you know, just set these up as the little bed screens. Yeah, totally.
Exactly.
They're big enough.
We also got a navy blue beanie with a white embroidered logo, and we've got a 15-ounce mug that says "Live Free and Indie" on it. A nice big old mug. And
I mean, I do like mugs.
So, there you go. Yeah.
Something to drink my coffee out of.
And that's the thing too, is that
or
you
bring
could,
them when I'm here. Yeah. Yep.
You could go straight to alternacomics.com/pre-order and check everything out that's available for pre-order. There's a bunch of comics as well. And then even all of the King Cryptid campaign items are up here, and you can order directly from the site if you'd like. You could get even the comics that are currently available, issues 1 to 4. You could get those in the new release section. And if you're antsy to get them, if you're a little anxious to get these first 4 issues, you don't want to wait to get all 9 in one shot, you can order 1 through 4, and that'll be sent out just within a day or two. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's we were talking about before, having a website that everybody can find, one stop shop. Is the chair still available on your website as well?
Yeah, I've got the first 3 issues. The fourth issue is sold out with no plans to go back to print, but you could get the graphic novel, and that's the complete story, and even the film is on there too.
Okay, cool. Because I definitely want to check out the graphic novel and the film. I think it's incredible that you were able to get that you were able to get a film made about your indie comic book, man.
Yeah,
I you got Roddy Piper in it. That's even
Roddy
cooler.
was great in it too, man. His performance alone is worth viewing the movie there. It's not like he's in it for 2 minutes. Sometimes a lot of these movies they'll get a star, and then like he plays a really sadistic prison guard by the name of Murphy, and he's a pretty pivotal role to the film. But I think it might actually be on Tubi as well. So if you guys want to check it out, I think our distributor still has it up on there. So you could check it out if you enjoy it. If you want to own the physical, it's a DVD Blu-ray combo. You could get that too. But yeah, it's on Tubi. It should still be on Tubi.
I'll have to check that out. Maybe Feline and I will watch that while I'm still up here. I don't usually watch a whole lot of movies by myself, but when I'm hanging out with her, we do watch movies. Like I said, we watched Eternal earlier today, and I really liked that one. It made me think. I like movies that do that. But Pete, this has been fantastic, man. I always have a blast talking with you, and I'm serious. We might have to do like an in-depth discussion about Thundercats at some point, and like how it connects to ancient aliens and whatnot.
Oh my lord, yeah.
You onto something there, my friend. Seriously.
Oh yeah, I'd be shocked if that dude wasn't familiar with ancient civilizations and basing it on a lot of the ancient astronaut theory, and it makes sense with the timing of when it was being developed, that's for sure. And then by the time it came out in the 80s, he's just got there's too much iconography in there. There's too much lore that makes sense with a lot of the ancient civilizations of various things on this planet. All you gotta do is kind of almost like the same thing of what's going on in King Cryptid, where you just gotta push certain elements and develop others, and all of a sudden you can have this whole fleshed out thing. But yeah, Thundercats is one of my go-tos. Every single year I have that series play out, usually as I'm doing fulfillment for campaigns and stuff. It's just awesome.
Have it going on in the background while you're I do that with audiobooks. Like I'll have something going on in the background to entertain my subconscious mind while my conscious mind is doing something else, like mowing the lawn, doing the dishes, working on design work. Yeah, absolutely. Tokame says, considering there's a theory that Thundercats took place on this planet 40,000 years ago, I could totally see it. I have not heard that theory, but it totally makes sense. That's for sure. Yeah, so we'll talk about that, man. That would be fun. Do some more cryptid talk and dovetail that into comics and Thundercats and all that fun stuff.
That'd be great.
Maybe more than 40,000, Feline says, perhaps. Alternate Comics is the best deal in comics, hands down. I agree, man.
Thank you, man.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. You're one of the pillars of this community, man. You really believe in indie comics, and you put your money and your hard work where your mouth is. You do the thing. You walk the walk and you talk the talk, brother. So I appreciate all the stuff you do for this indie scene, and I appreciate the fact that you're making good comics for people to just jump into and enjoy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's been a privilege to be able to do this for 17 years, and
that's incredible, dude.
I don't know what else I'd be doing in my life. This is my purpose, is to try to be a storyteller and to try to get this stuff out there and preach the good word of comics and just continue carrying on in the wonderful tradition of all those who've inspired me. So if I could inspire even a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of those who've inspired me, then I'll consider it a life well lived.
Hell yeah, man. And some person says there's an extra backer on the King Cryptid campaign. So you're now up to 306 at $12,013.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Holy smokes, we crossed the 12,000 mark on the Indiegogo side. That's incredible.
Heck
Thank
yeah,
you guys. Man.
That's awesome. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and Pete while we talk about comics and cryptids and all things nerdy and being creative. Again, Pete, thank you so much, man. This has been a blast.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You are welcome to come back and hang out anytime, man. But the conversations are always fun with you, my friend.
Oh, likewise, man. It's always great. Anytime you want to invite me back and talk whatever, I'm more than happy to.
Sounds good, man. All right, audience. Thank you guys so much for being here. Chat, remember.
Shop smart, shop S-Mart.